Hi everyone, welcome to the Trendhub by BDA London Home and Outdoor Living Spring Summer 26 presentation. Just give you a little bit of background about who we are, in case you've never heard of Trendhub or BDA. We're a fashion and retail specialist. We're based in the East End of London. We predominantly focus on trend forecasting, but also product and brand strategy. We work with a client base all over the world, predominantly at the moment in Africa, India, and the Middle East. And our whole point of view, our whole reason for being is to really offer brands that external viewpoint. So what we often do is come in and help basically let people see past the day-to-day, really focus on how we sort of evolve businesses, take things forward, really look at opportunities for growth, etc. We're very much about balancing sort of personalized trend services with information that's really tangible and usable. And our whole ethos is to really cut through the noise and be a little bit more edited and focused. Trendhub is the ready-to-buy division of BDA London. So this is more our off-the-shelf trend service. It basically offers like a really concise overview of the season, and it covers everything from homeware, which I'm going to talk to you about today, women's, menswear, kids, even into active and beauty as well. And it's been going for a good couple of years now, but what it's allowed us to do is really open up the door to brands that perhaps don't have the budget for those bigger bespoke pieces of work that we focus on in our day-to-day. So I'll head straight into Spring Summer 26 and give everyone a bit of an overview. So we always start the season with our big ideas, our big overriding themes that really drive what we're going to be talking to for the entire season and the focuses you're going to see. So we've got 3 for Spring Summer 26 that we're really focusing in on. Some of these things won't necessarily feel completely brand new, but are really important and definitely are feeding into all of the trend stories that I'm going to take you through today. So our first one is Waste Not. Obviously, it wouldn't be a BDA presentation without a focus on sustainability. But so obviously global economies are really exploring how we capitalize on waste products, how we reach climate goals and expand local resources. So we're seeing initiatives that are really focusing on becoming more circular, becoming more focused on how we can be more mindful about where the materials we're using are coming from and what their life actually looks like. This also has a real focus on culture and innovation. And, you know, we're really driving those ideas and concepts to sort of really breathe new life into waste and gain momentum in some of those ideas. It's all about collaboration, very much rooted in craft with an emphasis on art using what is available. And again, that underlying benefit to local communities being a real rising trend. Our second one is social costs. So this is all about disparities in things like social housing and this whole shift towards doing something a little bit more inventive and creative with those spaces. So the idea of building spaces with dignity, but functionality and style also considered. We're seeing things that enable us to sort of connect with the outdoors being considered in these initiatives, and the idea of featuring sort of accent colours and things that are a little bit more designed rather than those stark interiors that you might come to expect. And obviously AI is playing a huge part in this. We're seeing 3D printing technologies providing customizable solutions that are really helping us create more sustainable but also more creative initiatives. And third up is this concept of evolving households. So this is really about this new shift towards accommodating multiple generations, but also multiple people with multiple different needs and feelings. We're seeing more and more consumers want an environment that enables community, but also private sanctuary, workspaces, a place for focusing on well-being, and then this idea of sort of more flexibility in the ways we're living. We're also seeing a rise in households without children. This has doubled over the past 20 years and it's set to rise even further. They say 140% by 2040. Countries leading this trend are China, India, and the United States. And again, this shift towards evolving personal preferences is definitely being driven not only by space, but also financial constraints. And we are also seeing this shift that some people are sacrificing space to remain in more expensive areas. So again, this rise in pieces of furniture that allow us to divide rooms or create multi-purpose are really important so that people can stay in desired location but still stay in minimal space. So you'll see that those big ideas start to really feed into the season's themes. And so this is where we go into sort of the key stories for spring summer 26. First up, we've got cheer. So this is really the optimistic kind of story for the season. It's about injecting that color and art into the everyday. We've got this almost kiddo approach to design. So whatever makes you happy goes is basically the ethos behind this one. These spaces are meant to be shared in person and should feel lived in rather than curated. So again, it's that whole thing of like making it personalized and less kind of like stark and sort of curated. The idea is here that it has that sort of eclectic medley of both contemporary and more traditional pieces. So that fusion that is so key to interior design. But most importantly here is the idea of playfulness, expressiveness, and layering up looks. So from a toolkit perspective, looking at those materials and details that are important here, you can see we've got these very smooth natural wood surfaces. Again, those bright colors coming through in powder coatings and textiles, but also that play on shape and pattern. So mixing patterns together, that idea of abstract art coming through. And then also in here, these geometric shapes that just sort of juxtapose the look and sort of create something very unique and individual. From a product focus perspective, you'll see these manipulated textiles coming through. Again, this has been a trend that's sort of definitely been uprising, these sort of almost gathered and ruched textiles being really important for upholstery and soft furnishings. And then these voluptuous accessories, these styles that almost feel like they're inflated or like blown up. And then creatively crafted decor, again, these things that feel almost unique, one-off, but playing a really key role into this look. From an outdoor perspective, we've tuned in here to our trend called Playing Out. So this is very much an idea, again, of fusing tradition with contemporary pieces, but playing out is making the most of the outside, creating those aspirational looks, but still maintaining that playfulness. Again, these sort of all-day outdoor ideas are coming through here as well. So, you know, where lighting becomes really important to these looks as well. But those bold color accents and those accessories really give that sense of theater with clashing colors, pattern, and materials. So just to summarize, obviously that modern traditional fusion is really important here, and that real play on color and textile is really, really key to the look. And again, just that sort of anything goes mentality really drives this story. Utilize is next up, so a very different look and feel. Form and function are definitely viewed as equals within this story. Items have that appealing sense, both for their beauty but also their usefulness. So again, that form and functionality become really key in here. I think, again, consumables are being packaged in this very sort of appealing, design conscious manner. And this idea of sort of, you know, function, but sort of completely designed and beautiful is really key to this look. Again, slightly pared back, but really uplifted by texture. And materials are definitely highly considered for their impact, not only on their appearance, but also the environment. So again, within here, we've got really beautiful sort of simplified designs with these contrast grains. And then these sort of illustrative sort of floral designs as well, just coming in there to sort of add a touch of something different. But the textured blends, these mossy textures, just again add depth to this look. We see these reworked woven looks as well coming through here, and this deeper, warm sort of mid-tone wood color being really important to this look as well. Our product focuses in here sort of really focus on the concept of utility, like function, but with that very sculptural beauty. And again, those crafted textiles, those sort of handmade looks being really key into here as well. There's also a really lovely focus in here that leans into kids homeware with this sort of purposeful play. So these pieces that are almost multifunctional, they might form as a piece of furniture, but also double up as something that you can actually use as a play toy. Our outdoor living look for this one is called Balance. And again, what we've got here is really that idea of balancing the function with the craft and the beauty. Again, industrial materials, repurposed materials being key within here. We concentrate here on these sort of warm terracotta tones, but also that mid-tone wood, as with the interiors. And again, those brightly powder-coated metals coming through, but in a slightly more minimalistic way. Again, those fresh greens you'll see being really important into this look as well. That industrial versus nature look that has been sort of so key for the last few seasons really dominates in this story. So to summarize on that one, a much easier sort of clean look, but that functionality with form and beauty being really important to this look. And again, that sort of underpin of sustainable materials and repurposed materials being really key and important. Our third story is called Worked. This is really about celebrating authenticity and uniqueness. We've seen in autumn winter this rise in things that focus on imperfection and one-offs. Again, this story really highlights and celebrates that idea. But again, this earth and craftsmanship, nature playing that pivotal role in the design process is what drives this story. Organic textures are very key here, and Worked explores the fact that these things have got real roots and sort of heritage to them as well. Again, like we see a lot of these focuses on quite primitive designs and relics that have those simplified shapes and patterns being really key. A lot of focus on natural here as well, with those color palettes being really important. So again, from a toolkit perspective, we can see those dark natural wood finishes, those stone-like textures being really important. Here it is really about celebrating that imperfection, that abstractness. So there's nothing that's uniform within this story. It's very much got that sort of irregularity to it, which makes it so beautiful. And from a product focus, this kind of idea of found forms, these sort of objects that almost appear like you've collected them over time is really key to this look. And then also these almost molten creations in metal, ceramic and glass being really important for the season. Also, woven fabrications are really key, but in this one, these sort of artisanal, imperfect versions are what drives the look. So again, a very different feel to the other stories, but really that focus on imperfection and sort of natural, primitive looks is really key to this story. Then we go into augmented. So this is very much centered around that desire to recreate and engineer like ideals. So augmented seeks to enhance reality in a much more tangible way than AI perhaps could. While floral fragrances are brought back from extinction, interior spaces are transformed through color. So we're seeing here this idea of color drenching shears. You'll see some other examples of that later on. And light and scent really play a key part to this. It's a multi-sensory story. It's really focused on all aspects of sort of the human senses. So again, from the toolkit, you can see those textures being really important, those gradual ombres coming through in those sheer fabrications. Matte metals and tinted glasses sort of play a really key point in here. And those slightly sort of digital glitch kind of prints and patterns also add a different layer into this. The color palette having those sort of synthetic bright tones really driving a slightly different look. For a product focus, these soft and tactile objects are really key. And these reimagined traditional sort of techniques are really important to this look and give it that edge, that sort of slightly, it moves it away from just being that dreamlike otherworldly story and sort of gives it a root. And then these fluid distorted metal and furniture pieces are also really key into this look. So again, this one's definitely got that feeling of sort of otherworldliness, this idea of sort of these synthetic pastel tones being layered together. And again, that layering of sheerness, layering of color being really important into this story. Last but not least is Transform. Again, I think I've saved the best till last because I really love this one personally. This theme is all about contrasts. Transform really explores that interplay between light and dark and a marriage of contemporary taste and traditional design. Dark interiors are definitely embraced in here through richness. So we see those deep sort of mid-century tone colors. But this idea of creating intimate, interesting spaces really plays a key part here. Light is really important to this story. So again, creating those sort of lighting pieces that create ambience and give that sort of rich tonality to a space. And materials are definitely transformed and repurposed, but with a very refined approach. So this doesn't necessarily feel like the eco story, but it has that as an underpin. From a materials perspective, we see things that we wouldn't quite expect in here as well, which I love. So the brushed chrome, the sort of satin and frills, you know, it just adds that edge that you wouldn't expect. But then the more sort of traditional things like aged brass and plush velvets are really key drivers within here. Wood and marble combinations also add something really, really beautiful to this story. And again, those aged wooden finishes also dry through here as well. Product focus, again, there is that slight modernity to some of these. So the ornate accessories take on that sort of feeling of modernity with simplified forms. And then these refined sort of craft wood focuses, again, sort of add that richness to this story. And the pleats and frills, as I mentioned, you know, a little bit unexpected into here, but again, adding that sort of contemporary tradition, that clash that we keep talking to. Outdoor living into this one, we've called Retreat. Again, you can see that sort of play on the color palette, just sort of toned down and neutralized slightly. But again, what's really lovely here is it really creates that idea of luxury in that retreat outdoors. It explores that concept of polished and elegantly eclectic. So again, that coming together of key pieces. And the tactility is really important here, as with the interiors. So again, those simplified contemporary forms paired with organic shapes and textures which really play on the palette. And again, that idea of sort of dappling light in the exterior, as the light played the key role in the interior, is really important here. So again, that elegantly eclectic look and feel is really important to this story. So just to round that one up, again, you know, obviously we've sort of spoken a lot about that fusion of traditional and contemporary coming together. Again, it kind of underpins really good design, but I think it's really key to some of our stories. And I think that undercurrent of sort of sustainability and sort of newfound materials is also a key driver in here. But again, I think what's really nice is this one sort of sets apart from the other stories. So from a key takeaway perspective, for all of the stories I've taken you through, I think that idea of sort of sourcing jovial accent pieces and trims that add that personality, that really drive through texture, color, and print, but add that personal element is really important. That sort of move away from classic minimalism to something that has a little bit more depth and texture also being really important. Selecting natural materials that dictate texture and form are also really key to the entire season. Bringing the outside in to help ground spaces in the home, also really important there as well. This idea of creating a new era of craftsmanship is also something that we're feeling really strongly about. So creative touches that sort of really play on handmade or one-off. Even if they're not, they have that appearance because of the materials we're choosing to use. And playing with textiles and manipulation just to sort of add that sort of point of difference. So these plump, soft accessories that create sort of unusual sort of looks and feels just add that slightly different element to things that perhaps are a little bit more traditional. Looking at traditional pieces and updating them through the materials and textiles that we're placing them in also adds something that has a very new feeling to it. And I think, again, that continuation to shift away from prints and surface decoration that is so subjective and a little bit more surface focused is something that we're seeing drive through and continuing. So that's me. If anybody wants a copy of the presentation, there are QR codes around the back of this wall and you can download it if you scan it on your phone. If anybody's got any questions, I'm going to hang around so you can come and find me. But thank you very much for joining me.